Hi, Stephen Kenneth Smith here, and I'd like to read another chapter from my post-apocalyptic novel, The Great Disruption. It's available. Here it is. It's available at Reader's Garden in Granville, Gramercy Books in Bexley, and you can find it online in Kindle format and in paperback by searching on my full name, Stephen Kenneth Smith, and the title, The Great Disruption. So, the novel is about the aftermath of a deadly pandemic. I read chapter 1 a while back. I'm going to read chapter 7 now. In this chapter, Rita Ballard, the character that stumbled across Jonathan and Sarah's mountain hideaway, it turns out that she's pregnant, and they have discovered that there is a village of survivors not very far from where they live, or somewhere around 35 miles, which is farther away for them than it would be for us, since they're basically using horsepower. So, Highwaymen. Jonathan turned toward the cabin when he heard the door open as Sarah stepped onto the porch. The sun, bisected by the eastern hills, lit their farm with a ruddy glow. The dew lay heavy on the autumn remains of their vegetable plot, stripped bare of any remaining vegetables. The maples along the edge of the field showed red and yellow, made all the richer by dawn's light. Leaves swirled in the air when the wind blew. He and Rita were securing a load of provisions on Zeke's hay wagon and adjusting the harness on the horse. Hoisting a box of books, Sarah made her way to the wet grass to the wagon. She set it on the bed of the wagon, and Jonathan eyed it, a frown forming. We don't have room for a lot more stuff, and Johnny has to be able to pull it up the hills. I just can't bear to abandon everything. I don't want Shakespeare and Whitman to go extinct as long as humans remain. Jonathan pulled out a book from the box and considered it. Nor Margaret Atwood either, eh? She's an author who's been underappreciated, but I think future generations will consider her to be one of the great writers of her time. I'll defer to your judgment on that. He put the volume back in the box and looked through it a little more. I agree that we should save these, but we might have to make another trip back for some of this stuff. John, that might never happen. I want to be sure we save some of them. We'll probably be back for the solar cells and batteries. We can get them then. If that happens, that'd be great. But I want to be sure I save some of them first. He sighed. Okay, I guess a box of books won't make that much difference in the load. I have another one to bring out. He rolled his eyes. One more? He asked, lifting his index finger in front of his face. Just one more, I promise. I guess. Go for it. But you owe Johnny. Thanks. She gave him a quick kiss and hurried back to the cabin. He shook his head as he watched her go. Rita tightened the girth strap on Johnny's harness and turned to Jonathan, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. Why don't you just bring them in digital form? They'd weigh almost nothing and take up a lot less room. Of course, and we're doing that, he said, gesturing toward the case holding their computer equipment and the portable solar charger. The thing is, in a few years, electronics will start to fail, and then all those e-book versions will be gone. It's not like we can just hop over to the computer market and get replacements, after all. The paper books will last longer, but even they'll fall apart in 50 years or so. Most of them are on acid pulp paper and weren't intended to be heirlooms. Oh. She went back to adjusting the harness on the horse's collar. They never did get used to calling him Johnson, and had settled on Johnny instead. The horse didn't seem to mind. Rita had had little trouble befriending him with the help of some apples and carrots and a lot of patience, but he just tolerated Jonathan and Sarah. She stroked the horse's neck. I think Johnny's all set. Good. I think we're about loaded up too, except for Sarah's second box of books. He helped Rita onto the wagon. In the last month, her pregnancy had become obvious, but hadn't slowed her down much. Her ankle no longer bothered her. As she settled onto the bench they'd improvised in the front of the wagon to wait, the door to the cabin slammed shut. Sarah locked it and then struggled toward the wagon with a box that was easily twice the size of the first one. Jonathan watched for a couple seconds, then shook his head. Just one more, she said. He sighed. Well, I better go give her a hand. As their shadows began pointing noticeably eastward on the second day of the trip, the I-40 overpass started to creep up in the distance, closer and closer each time they topped a hill as they made their way north. The state road was in good shape, but it had been a stressful journey nonetheless. The ditches, and occasionally the road itself, were littered with wrecked cars with skeletal remains either in them or beside them. As they passed an old Hyundai Elantra, Rita pointed to it. The gas cap is open. The last several gas-powered cars we passed were like that. Someone's been here to siphon the gas out of the tank. I guess that means we're getting close, Sarah said. Jonathan nodded. Yeah, that guy we saw last summer said it was only a mile past I-40, and from the looks of things, I-40 is less than a mile away. Jonathan scanned the horizon to the north and pointed. Is that smoke over there? Rita shaded her eyes and looked. A gray smudge hung over the trees to the north. I think so. I guess we're headed the right way. She pulled on the reins to guide the wagon around a pile of bones on the side of the road, and they continued. As they approached the interstate underpass, two men with rifles appeared from behind the concrete pillars. Stop there and drop your gun, one of them said as the other aimed his rifle at them. Jonathan laid his rifle on the wagon's bed, and Rita pulled the reins to bring the wagon to a halt. Hands up where we can see them. They did as they were ordered. The other one stood back, covering them with his rifle, and the man talking approached the wagon. He was a little shorter than average, with a round face. His jacket was dirty, he had a green and black camo pattern on it. He appeared to be in his 30s. Whoever had trimmed his straight brown hair had been totally innocent of barbering skills. Well, look at what we got here. A wagon load of supplies, a geezer, a granny, and a young chick. He looked Rita up and down. A pregnant one. Little old to be diddling girls that age, ain't you? He leered at Rita and laughed. I'm not the father. We're coming to join the village up ahead. Oh, I don't think you'll make it. They're particular about who they allow inside. Wouldn't let George and me stay, for instance. Sarah gave a little gasp. Rita turned back to them. Jonathan's eyes were wide, but he stared straight at the man, his gaze unwavering. How old's the horse? The man asked, moving in front of it to check its teeth. Rita gave a kick, catching the reins with her foot, giving Johnny a sharp jerk back. He reared up and knocked the brown-haired man down, striking him in the face with his hoof. Rita went down on the bed of the wagon, and George fired a shot. Jonathan pulled Sarah down and lay over her, shielding her with his body. Rita came up with a .22 pistol. She shot George, hitting him in the right shoulder. She tried to fire again, but the ejector had jammed, with the spent cartridge still lodged in the chamber. Before she could clear it, there was a rifle crack from above them. George fell back and lay still, with a red spot blooming on his chest. Another shot fired from above them, and the other man's head exploded. Sarah screamed. Rita spared a quick glance upward and saw a red-haired man with a rifle leaning out through the opening cut in the fence. Then Johnny reared and lurched forward. Rita grabbed for the reins. She gave them a whip-like shake. Go! Johnny pulled the wagon forward, and it shuddered violently as the left side wheels crushed the headless body on the road. Rita shouted and shook the reins again and again to urge Johnny up to a gallop, but it was too heavy a load for him to continue at that pace for long. Before they'd made a quarter mile, he'd slowed down to a trot. When they came around a bend in the road, a group of 6 men and women faced them with rifles leveled. Rita pulled up the reins to stop the wagon. She raised her hands and sobbed. "Oh, God, I'm so sorry." From behind her, Sarah shouted, "My husband's wounded. Please, for the love of God, don't kill us." Rita spun around toward them, her hand still in the air. Jonathan's right pant leg was soaked with blood. "We're not going to kill you," one of them said, "but get off the wagon with your hands up." "He's bleeding massively. I can't let go." A couple of people approached the wagon from either side with rifles pointed toward them, while Rita climbed down, careful to make no threatening moves. They led her a short distance from the wagon and searched her for weapons. Rita submitted without a struggle, but she kept her attention on Jonathan and Sarah. Tears ran down Sarah's face. "Please help us. Don't let my husband die." There was a short silence. "Jamal's going to climb up there and take a look," a middle-aged man said. "No sudden moves, or it'll be the last move you make. Understand?" Sarah nodded. She tried to wipe tears away against her shoulder while still pressing on Jonathan's wound. "Jay, check it out." "Right." A massive, dark-skinned man with dreadlocks flowing over his shoulders hopped up on the wagon and evaluated the situation with quick efficiency. "He took a bullet to the thigh. I don't think it broke his legs, but I can't be sure. He's bleeding a lot, but I don't think he's in grave danger just yet." He pulled a knife from a sheath on his belt. Sarah gasped. "I'm just going to cut the way the trouser leg so I can get a better look," Jamal said, as he knelt down beside Jonathan, opposite Sarah. "Hey, guy, you still with us?" "Yeah," Jonathan said through clenched teeth. "His name's Jonathan," Sarah said. Jamal nodded, dreadlocks swaying as he cut the cloth away from the wound. "Okay, stay with us, Jonathan. Can I call you John?" Whatever. Just don't hurt my wife." "No one's going to hurt her. My name's Jamal." He turned his neck to face the others around him. "Is the first aid kit on the way?" "It's coming," someone said. Jamal turned back to Jonathan. "We're going to take care of you, John. It's going to be okay." "All right." "Was that your daughter driving the wagon?" "No. She's a survivor that happened on our place." "Oh." A pickup truck skidded to a halt not far away. Someone jumped out and came up to the wagon with what looked like a fishing tackle box. He set it on the bed of the wagon next to Jamal. As he moved away from the wagon, he blocked Rita's view. She shifted a little so she could see them. The man beside Rita grasped her arm. "Stay put." He wasn't rough, but Rita didn't test him further. After a few seconds, he let go. Jamal opened the box and pulled on a pair of latex gloves. "Okay, ma'am, I need you to let go for a second so I can take a better look." "But he'll start bleeding again." "It'll be okay for a second." Sarah looked into Jonathan's eyes, her mouth hanging open. "It's okay, Sarah. You've done what you can." He took a couple of breaths. "I love you." Sarah sobbed new tears. "I love you too." She let go and a woman behind her helped Sarah stand, then helped her climb off the wagon. She led her toward where Rita stood, next to a group that included the leader. Another man climbed up on the wagon to assist Jamal. Rita took a step toward Sarah, but the woman leading Sarah held up a hand to stop her, and the man standing beside Rita grasped her arm again. "I'm terribly sorry, ma'am," the man said, "but we have to search her for weapons first." Sarah's eyes went wide. "Oh." Rita glanced toward the man, then turned back to Sarah. "They took my pistol." The woman leading Sarah said, "Please stand with your arms outstretched and your legs separated." Sarah's eyes flickered over the crowd. More people had gathered since they first stopped. There were at least a dozen now. They all had either rifles or sidearms. After a moment's hesitation, she submitted to the search. That's Chapter 7, Highwaymen. Hope you're enjoying this. It's available at those bookstores. Reader's Garden in Granville, Gramercy Books in Bexley, or you can find it online. Search under my full name, Stephen Kenneth Smith, and the title, The Great Disruption. You can find information on my writing projects in general on my writer's website, SK Smith at sksmithwriter.com, and the website is www.sksmithwriter.com. Information about my music activities is at sksmithmusic.com. Feel free to email me at sksmith@sksmithwriter.com. Have a good evening or morning or whatever time it is in your area. Stay safe, and I'll be reading again from this book in future. Thanks.